Which game is better, Returnal or Saros? Returnal's been out since 2021, and now that Saros has been out for over a month, many of you have had a chance to play both. They're so unique that they can really only be compared to each other. So let's have some fun, put them head to head, and see which one comes out on top. And the winner might actually surprise you. I'm going to compare these games across 10 different categories and keep count who wins each one of these. With these, Celine coin and an Argent coin. I love Housemarque's games and feel like there are other dedicated Housemarque fans out there like myself that are very passionate about them too. So let me know if you agree, disagree, or you're like, nah, this guy's takes are completely crazy. I really want to hear your thoughts on these awesome sci-fi roguelikes. First up's combat, which is where I feel like Saros has made the most strides compared to Returnal. Returnal's combat made you feel vulnerable, but powerful, with only a dodge and the grapple hook to avoid getting tentacle smacked. In Saros, you feel like an absolute powerhouse with so many offensive options at your disposal. Even your defense gets converted to power. You feel every bit of Arjun's unending rage pulsating in combat. I actually went back and replayed Returnal after finishing Saros, and the movement felt like it was in slow motion. I didn't think that was even possible, because Returnal felt so fast and smoothly hectic when I played it in 2021. But the moment-to-moment combat in Saros, it's fast, buttery smooth, controlled chaos. And for that, the first coin goes to Saros. In Returnal, the weapons truly feel alien. When you discover each one, you believe they're from another planet. From the bright, pulsating purple of the Holoseeker, to the red electricity of the Electro Pylon Driver, to the green alien pods of the Spitmaw, looking like a facehugger from Alien's gonna burst out of it. And there's so many more. Each weapon feels unique and handcrafted. So much thought went into the names and their design. There are so many cool weapon traits available, and alternative fire modes too. In the melee, you feel like you straight up joined the dark side, slashing enemies with the red lightsaber. These weapons just scream sci-fi. The only weapon that looks human-made is the pistol you start out with, because it's Celine's pistol that she brought with her from Earth. Switching over to Saros, the weapons just don't have the same punch to them. Much more boring designs and boring names. Like Returnal, you start with the pistol, but then you unlock rifles and shotguns. Smart Rifle, the Horde shotgun, those names, they just fall flat and they look uninspired, like everyday normal guns. The designs don't really ramp up until the late game guns, in the crossbows and the shotguns. That goes for the alt fire on most of the weapons too. Only the power weapons in Saros feel truly unique. The Prominence, the Dispiritor, the Nova Lance, and the Illumina. Those are creative. Out of all the categories, this one isn't even close. Returnal easily takes the cake on this one. With the story, it really comes down to whichever character you jive with most. Celine's story is completely isolated. She's alone with nothing but her ship and multiple versions of her dead self to keep her company. While Celine's in a dire situation, having crash landed on the hostile alien planet of Atribos, it doesn't stop her from being an astronaut and explorer with infinite curiosity. It's so infectious, keeping you constantly engaged until the end. As the story is further pieced together through multiple runs, it gets more traumatic and much more personal. I mean, you literally visit her own house multiple times throughout your runs, even playing as her own son during some segments. When you come to outside the house each time, you're rewarded with personal items like a little astronaut figurine that affects both the story and the gameplay. As more fragments of her memories return, you really feel sorry for Celine as she regrets the choices she made in her life, focusing more on her career than her own son, Helios. You eventually find out at the very end that her mother was the reason for her terrible childhood, and the negative influence of how she ended up neglecting her own child. But the thing that was even more unexpected was that the entire game, everything you experienced was entirely inside Celine's head as a result of her injury from the car crash. It was pretty mind-blowing. For Arjun's story, he has a completely different personality, and living under a completely different set of circumstances. Unlike Celine, he decides to come to the alien planet Carcosa with a recovery team to find the missing colonists that were sent before them. But really, Arjun's there to find his wife, Nidya. At first, it seems like a noble cause, but later you find out it's due to an unhealthy obsession. Arjun had a rough childhood with an abusive father. Despite hating his dad, he ends up just like him. Arjun's a drunk, cheats on his wife, and even ends up killing his own friend to prevent his wife from finding out. What I didn't like is you end up playing as a character you just can't stand. Arjun's completely desperate, with anger clearly boiling below the surface. He believes that his wife needs him, when in reality, she's trying to escape from him, and he's trying to escape from the police. You don't have that same feeling about Arjun as you do Celine. And while he does eventually accept the mistakes he has made, it doesn't really happen until the very end of the game, during the true ending. His character and his extremely long path to redemption was just not something I connected with at all. So for that reason, this category goes to Celine and Returnal. Alright, this one might be a hot take. While you think this might be straightforward with Saros having the permanent progression with the armor matrix upgrade tree, Returnal actually has this surprisingly sneaky permanent progression to it. Saros' tagline is "Come back stronger," so you're drip-fed constant upgrades by collecting Lucenite, then using it to upgrade Arjun in the armor matrix back at the passage. Whereas Returnal's progression is more organic. You unlock the sword, the grapple hook, multiple modifications to your suit, and additional consumable slots, which all permanently help you access more of the map to make your runs easier each time you die and are jolted back to life on your broken ship. But that's not all. As you find each weapon, they have traits which you unlock by using the guns in combat, making them even more powerful. Then you have your run savers. Once you unlock the astronaut figurine after visiting Celine's house, it often shows up as an item you can buy during your run for an extra life. The astronaut reminds you of the good old days when you could find extra lives in games. But then you have the reconstructors to discover too, which will teleport you back to it once when you die, keeping your run going. The reconstructor can only be unlocked if you have enough ether. But once you have gone on enough runs, ether is more commonly found, so you'll be able to pretty much unlock it every run. So while Saros has the second chance mechanic, Returnal has a second chance and a third chance, giving you even more tries to make it through. There's even more than this, but this is already way more robust than what Saros has, so Returnal takes this category too. I think the biomes are by far the toughest decision on which game does it better. It's really whether you like diversity and a distinct style, or you like a sense of scale and an underlying theme. Returnal has fewer biomes, with only 6 compared to Saros' 8. Each biome in Returnal has a really unique flavor though, telling its own story. From a dense jungle, to a bustling desert, to an icy wasteland, and even one completely underwater. Each one has a very distinct color palette. Besides the desert, the 6 biomes are very compact areas with a decent amount of verticality. With Saros though, the colors are more muted, but the biomes feel more vast, with many sprawling structures and points of interest in the background. There are actually later biomes that you get to explore. Then there's the theme of the sun is forever. When you activate the eclipse, the biomes are bathed in orange. While Returnal's biomes are amazing, Saros' biomes stopped me in my tracks so many times. It's like I had no control over my finger as it navigated to press the share button for a screenshot, as I stared transfixed at the sun and its surroundings. It was like I was almost controlled by the sun's gaze, like so many characters were in the game. For this reason, I think Saros' biomes slightly edge out Returnal's to take this category. I feel like Saros really takes a big step back here with its random map generation. It almost seemed like they were trying to keep pretty similar map setups throughout the game, at least until the Yellow Shore biome. There was a bit more customization there, but even so, it didn't match Returnal's. In Returnal, it really felt like when you first stepped through that door to enter a biome, you'd be presented with a very different map. It took this even a step further with randomizing the treasure rooms that you drop down into, placement of chests, fabricators, and other items, and even the enemy spawn locations. This made it so you really never knew what you were going to get into each run. And I think that's so important for keeping runs fresh in a roguelike game, where you're put into a continuous loop. Due to Returnal's fresh factor it has going on, it easily takes this category. Returnal's difficulty was maybe a bit much, especially at launch in April 2021 when you couldn't save mid-run and come back to it later. But that all changed in October 2021, when Housemarque updated the game with the suspend cycle feature. It made it more accessible to get further into a run through multiple play sessions, making it much less frustrating. This was key, because once you made it to the third biome, then you didn't have to start all the way over from the beginning. Getting further into a run also made it easier to get additional chances to come right back to your run after dying without starting over from scratch. The difficulty was sometimes harsh, but it was rewarding. I never felt like my deaths were unfair, like I never got one shot or anything. It was always due to mistakes I made. I felt like I could die at any point though, even from normal enemies. For Saros, it felt like the normal enemies were just trash mobs. You'd lose some health, but it was rare that you'd die. The difficulty spikes were during the mini-boss and boss fights, where I commonly died the most. In the last biome, the Yellow Shore, that seemed to be the most difficult, because there was no second chance mechanic, and you couldn't build up your power going through biomes before it, because it takes you back to passage and resets your character. However, the difficulty seemed much more forgiving in Saros than it did in Returnal. You have the Carcosan modifiers, which let you customize how easy or hard you want your experience to be, and you can interact as much or as little as you wanted with the Armor Matrix permanent progression to make Argent more powerful. Saros' difficulty was designed to be flexible and accessible, and I think they succeeded in doing that. For most players, especially the ones who found Returnal to be way too difficult, Saros gave them a more balanced experience. I personally enjoyed Returnal's difficulty, but I definitely got frustrated sometimes. But I enjoyed the payoff. I'm not one of those diehard gamers who wants to play everything at a crushing difficulty in all the games that I play. So for difficulty, I'm going to give the slight edge to Saros. This is where things get really lopsided. The modifiers, the character's suit, and the enemy design in Returnal are second to none. The wealth of options for modifiers for Selene are incredible. The parasite system provides a perfect balance between power scaling and debuffs. The malignancy system's the perfect trade-off. Possibly finding something overpowered in a chest or giving you more currency to buy something at the fabricator, but you have a chance to get a malfunction, which you have to cleanse by doing certain actions within the game. You also have so many options of consumables that are actually impactful to your gameplay. In most games, I rarely ever use consumables, but in Returnal, they feel vital to the gameplay. And then you can find augmentations, random upgrades at fabricators, machines that restore and give you more health, or randomly modify materials you collected, or let you remove parasites. The list of modifiers goes on and on. It's really crazy when you think about it. Whereas Saros' modifiers seem pretty limited. Really, all you have are upgrades that have a chance to go volatile, debuffing your resilience, command, and drive attributes. But it's always the same exact debuff every time. Another system's the corruption to your health bar, which also has no variation. It decreases your health, but it can also give you more power for your main weapon if you have a corrupted weapon equipped. Beyond that, you can choose buffs or debuffs in the Carcosan modifiers, but again, you know exactly what the modifier is going to be. There's no surprise factor in Saros like there is in Returnal. So Returnal easily takes this category. Selene's suit feels very practical, but really cool at the same time. She looks like an astronaut with thrusters on her back. And there's the little robot companion that revolves around her neck that can analyze all the mysterious items on Atropos. The little robot with Selene reminds me of BD-1 and Cal Kestis from the recent Star Wars Jedi games. The really cool thing are the alien upgrades you find for your suit, which not only modify your suit, but they visually show up as well, giving you that feeling of the suit's evolution as you progress through the game. All three available suit skins for Selene are absolutely awesome. The suits for Saros really don't change much from beginning to end, and the options are more gimmicky, with the Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, and Returnal skins. The Hands of Shore suit that you can get access to if you pre-ordered Saros is actually pretty sweet looking, but it's all surface level, and it never changes. So once again, Returnal easily takes this category. There's some really cool music tied to each boss, which is a highlight of both games. The Hyperion boss fight with the Don't Fear the Reaper song was a spectacle to behold, and by far the most memorable boss of either game. But both had incredible bosses and distinct music that stuck with you after you beat them. The real big difference here are the normal enemies. Saros had plenty of variety, but the enemies seemed disjointed, like they wouldn't necessarily exist with one another. It also seemed like the creativity that went into each enemy in Returnal is unmatched. From the bioluminescent tentacle wolves, to stationary turrets, to flying drones, to humanoid monsters, to floating death orbs, to robot squids, to aquatic killer gorillas, and much more. All the enemies felt alien, but they also had this interconnection to them, like it made sense they would all inhabit this planet. Therefore, I can just stop right here. Returnal wins this category. When it comes down to it, I think Housemarque injected way more creativity into Returnal that Saros just can't match. Both games are stunning in their own ways, and are definitely must-plays, but all this leads to the 5-year-old Returnal being the clear winner for me. finishing 7-3 over Saros. I like what Housemarque's trying to do with Saros to attract more players to their third-person sci-fi roguelikes, because I think more people should experience these two games. So I hope now that players have had a blast with Saros, that they'll go back and replay Returnal, or they'll pick it up and experience it for the very first time, because it deserves to have way more eyes on it for the masterpiece that it is. If you're still playing Saros and looking for ways to make it through to the end, or you want to crank up that difficulty with the Carcosa modifiers, why don't you check out my tips video to enhance your runs. Thanks for watching, and until next time, keep on gaming.